What's up, guys? We are back with another review, and we are taking a look at a figure that I have been dying to get my hands on because, well, it's not been easy, and I didn't even find it myself. I had to get help to get this guy. We are taking a look at the new NECA Toys cartoon Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Metalhead figure. So this is the first deluxe figure in the Toon Turtles line because this guy is absolutely massive. This thing is so much bigger than I thought he was going to be, and I am really happy to finally get a new entry in this line. Now, as far as packaging goes, he is definitely different as well. So we've got a VHS type of box here. Well, not in format, but in terms of packaging and the overall picture. So you've got the Mighty Metalhead cover there with artwork that's like the cartoon show. You've got the NECA logo that's done up in the old FHE artwork style, and then you've got the logos on the side, and then on the back it's like the back of a VHS box with a little write-up, a shot of the cartoon, and then some product shots of Metalhead himself. Now this is of course an Ultimate style box though, so you've got a Velcro flap. So you've got the figure there in the window, and then you've got a shot of the figure here on the inner flap. So great packaging as usual, and then you can take him out and put him back in if you want to mess around with him, but then store him away. But we're not going to do that. So let's pull him out and take a look. And here he is out of the package, our deluxe cartoon Metalhead. So this guy is a pretty interesting figure, not just because of the fact that it's a pain to actually get a hold of him, but because there is so much toy here. And, you know, honestly, when I think of Metalhead, I always think of the vintage toy just because, I mean, I played with those toys nonstop for years and years. But this guy has such a unique look, despite the fact that he appears in 2 episodes, I think. It is still one of those characters that, like, I can instantly think of his appearances in the show when I think about him. So it's not like he's a major character, certainly by the cartoon standards. He's nowhere near anything like that, but he's an interesting design, and who doesn't like a robot turtle? So, I mean, it practically sells itself. So let's see what's going on, see how this guy moves around, because he is a bigger figure, and he is, I don't know, let's just say chunky. He's a very rotund robot turtle. So there are a few interesting elements when it comes to articulation on this guy. So to start with, we've got a head that can look up a little bit. Not too much, but it is enough to get his sight line going into the air. You've got really good on the down, and then you've got a little tilt side to side, full rotation of course. The arms go out about that far. They've got these kind of like dishes around the shoulders that prohibit him from going any further. They do rotate all the way around. You do have a bicep swivel. Single jointed elbows, they're pretty limited. They really only go about that far. And then you've got hinges at the wrist. My hands tend to pop out quite a bit, not in the sense that they're loose, just that they're not hard to take apart, I suppose, which helps when it comes to switching out the hands, but when you're moving them, you know, maybe beware. And then you've got full rotation in there as well. One area that I wasn't really sure that he had any cuts at all because it's so well hidden is the waist. I assumed that he had nothing here at first, but he actually does have a waist cut. So you can twist him at the waist, and it's hidden by the belt. Obviously, this is not accurate in any way, but it's easily hidden when you're posing him or doing any photography. So I'm happy that they included that because it does help quite a bit with posing on this guy. Obviously, he doesn't have a crunch or anything, but the fact that he does have a waist twist is a real nice surprise. We do also have a few other little things at the chest. So the chest panels open up because there's a gun that goes in here. So those pop open. They've just got little hinges on them there. And then the control lever on the back is articulated as well. So it goes up and down. And I will tell you to be very, very careful with this thing. I feel like it's going to break at any point in time, honestly. And I know there are instances of it already happening. Someone told me that it happened in another person's review that I don't know who it was at this point, but that it actually broke on camera. So buyer beware. Just watch out on that. It's really small. It's a very tiny joint. So I feel like it could snap. If he falls over, it's probably going to break it because he is really heavy. Legs are really well done. They go out way farther than I expected because he's got a double ball peg down there, so it's just a big barbell, which is really nice. They go forward only about that far though. They're pretty limited because of his chunkiness, and he goes back only a little bit. There is a thigh cut there. I mean, you can get him to go out further if you twist as you do it, but it's kind of an awkward look. The only area where I've had any issues with stuck joints is going to be the knees. It's a double knee, and there is actually rotation at the top of the knee. So you've got thigh cut and you've got knee rotation. I cannot really get my upper hinges to go very well. This one does, but it really doesn't seem to afford much more movement. it's just kind of like a secondary thing, and they are painted as well. So like this one has completely lost all its paint while I've been moving it around. This one, however, I mean, I've heated it multiple times and it just doesn't want to move. Frankly, I don't think it's too much of a help because it really doesn't give you much more motion anyway. It's about a 90-ish degree bend no matter what, I think. And then down at the ankles, you've got rocker, and then you've got really good hinge. I mean, that's really nice down there. So your standard ankle rocker with hinge. So he does move pretty good. I mean, he moves better than I expected, honestly. I in some ways, I should say. The arms are kind of limited, the knees feel kind of limited, but at the same time, he is a big chunky robot, so I'm not really concerned about that. Was really surprised by the waist cut. That is a really nicely hidden joint that, while, I mean, it makes him look kind of weird because things don't line up right, it does help with the articulation, and when you pose him, you likely won't see that anyway. But here it comes. You know where I'm going next. The looks, the aesthetic, it's what I care about here. I mean, really, that's what this whole line is about. How faithful to the cartoon can NECA make these figures? And, I mean, this guy looks like he jumped right out of the show. Again, when I think of Metalhead, I think of the toy. But that's true for a lot of Turtle stuff, honestly. But this guy looks exactly like I remember him. And I did go back to watch some of the appearances that he has in those 2 episodes. And I mean, it's pretty close. There's really not much room to gripe about the appearances in this guy. I think they did a really good job of translating this into figure form. A lot of that comes down to the paint scheme, but of course the overall size, the bulk, and then just the sculpt in general really adds another layer to how close this thing looks to its cartoon counterpart. And I think it looks really, really nice. From the very matte flat shading that we've got going on here from the various color tones to, of course, the kind of cartoon shadow style that we've got. So you can see there's a little bit of shadow painted on the shoulders here or on the biceps, and then he does have that kind of line that bisects him on the back. So he's really dark on the backside, but he's that light gray on the front. And I really, really like the color combinations here. So the yellow to the various tones of green, and then you've got the grenades on his belt. And just, I mean, just look at it. It screams 1980s cartoon Metalhead, and that's ultimately what it's about. He is, again, a really, really big figure, and I will do size comparisons here shortly, and that's the one thing that I wasn't too sure about because there is no consistency between how this guy kind of manifests in the show. At some points he looks small, like almost turtle size, but at other points he looks large. It's all about how they kind of, I guess, didn't do perspective very well at times because his size is all over the place in his appearances. Frankly, I'm really happy with him being big because it kind of makes him more imposing, and it makes him look much more menacing as far as him being a villain to begin with. So I do like that. The head sculpt on this guy is really well done. You've got these dark lines here, and one thing that I don't think I mentioned, he has an articulated jaw to give you a little bit more expression on the figure. Yeah, I didn't mention that, did I? So you've got the articulated jaw to give you that kind of gaping void in his mouth. But all of the paintwork up top is really well done. The greens, the black line work, the orange eyes, and then the kind of yellow bandana that he's got so he kind of do his little Ninja Turtle mimic look that he's got going on. But I think they did a really good job, you know. I mean, the little detail with the actual moving power switch on the back is a really nice touch, despite how fragile it may be. So, yeah, I mean, when it comes to the looks and just the overall design, it's one area where NECA usually knocks it out of the park, and this guy is par for the course when it comes to that. He looks pretty perfect. Now, when it comes to accessories, this guy is, frankly, he's about as loaded as he needs to be. So to start with, we've got a few extra hands. We've got a set of kind of flat palm hands here on him out of the box. Then you've got a set of just fist hands here. So like I said, you know, these pop out really easy, so you can take those out, put a new one in, no problems there. And of course we need to keep those out for a minute. And we've got a set of gripping hands. He doesn't come with anything that he actually grips, but frankly, with all the stuff that NECA has given us across this line so far, you know, throw a piece of pizza in his hands or a comic book that they've given us, something like that. So you've got 4 extra hands. Then we've got his attachments. So we've got his actual weapon, which is the drill arm. So it just pops on there, and you can see how easy that went on. I mean, it's really like no muss, no fuss kind of thing. And there's a lot of black line work on the inside of the spiral, so it's not just that flat gray. You've got that. And then, of course, I mean, the accessory that's I don't know if everybody knows him for this, but this is one of the weirder ones, is the vacuum. So this is the one that comes from his second episode appearance, where he's like the turtle nanny. So you've got the vacuum here, which attaches. They can go on either hand, you know, both of them. You can have both on at the same time if you really wanted. So you've got like the vacuum bag here, and then the attachment, and then the nozzle, and then of course the actual vacuum down here, and it is hinged, so it does move a little bit if you want to try to get it as close to the floor or, you know, your platform, whatever you're using, as possible. So I do like this. I mean, frankly, I'd have been happy if he only had this, but it's one of those things where NECA is going to give you essentially everything that he should have to be as completely cartoon accurate as possible. And then we've got the last accessory, the gun that goes into his chest. So you pop those open, and then we've got this guy here, which just pegs in. It's kind of tight. So you pop this guy into his chest, and there's a slot for it, and then there's a little wire on here as well that actually pops into a hole that's on his chest. So one of those small little details that, frankly, I didn't need, because that wire worries me that it might pop off at some point. But it's another one of those things where they give you every little detail, and they didn't have to put that hole in his chest. They didn't have to give you that wire. He could have just had the gun, but they give you the whole thing. And it looks really good too. So you've got the gun, you've got the drill, you've got the vacuum, and you've got 4 extra hands for a total of 6 for just this one big robot turtle. Now, as far as size comparisons go, this guy is massive. He is a very, very large figure. He's not necessarily much larger than Bebop and Rocksteady, but they're huge figures, at least in this line, and kind of in general. So he is very, very big. Here he is next to one of the, this is the reissue turtle, so one of the lighter green versions, so Raph. And then we've got a foot soldier over here, so you can see that he towers over the turtles. He is a little bit taller than a foot soldier. Of course, he has a tremendous amount of bulk on the foot soldiers, and these are big figures to begin with. I mean, they're bigger than the turtles by quite a bit as well. Here he is with Rocksteady, just to give me an idea of what he's like next to him, and you can see that they very much size up in terms of bulk, but Metalhead is still just ever so slightly taller, but they are very comparable when it comes to, you know, overall girth and weight and things like that. But as far as, I don't know, say other lines, here he is with the Super 7 movie He-Man. So you can see He-Man's taller than him. Here he is with the most recent Legends that I've got access to right now. So there he is with Rhodey. And you can see Rhodey is, you know, Rhodey's a pretty big Marvel Legend, so he's probably not the best best figure to go with there. It's not a standard 6-inch, but he's pretty big. And then he compares nicely to Metalhead. Here he is with Figure Arts, so the Goku sign that I recently reviewed. So you can see he's got pretty good bulk on him as well. So this guy is quite large. There's no other way to describe him. He is large within his own line, and then he very much is going to tower over a lot of your average 6-inch figures for sure. But then lastly, let's compare him to the vintage figure, and this is my original beater, so it's the one that has sustained some damage over the years. He's missing, I'm pretty sure he's missing that arm, and he's missing a backpack strap too, but otherwise he looks pretty okay for, you know, a 30-plus-year-old figure. So yeah, these guys, I mean, they compare, but they really don't, I suppose. The cartoon and the vintage figure were very different from each other, just like pretty much every one of them, honestly, in so many ways. This guy's got the vac metal. He looks a lot more robotic in terms of the overall detail, you know, because Playmates really went to town when it comes to that sculpt. He's got light piping on the eyes. He's got the backpack, things like that. But you can see there are, of course, a few little things that still remain the same, like the bandana, the knee pads, the elbow pads, stuff like that, the robot turtle aspect of it. So yeah, just because why not? Here is our look at the cartoon NECA and our vintage Playmates toy. So yeah, if you're into cartoon turtles, is there really a reason not to buy this guy? Again, I do have a few little gripes about this figure, you know, like the knees are kind of stuck on mine. He has limited elbow range, and I worry about the fragility of that switch on his back over time, but he looks essentially perfect. I mean, for what this line is about, this guy is translated into figure form pretty flawlessly. I mean, it's that look just made real, essentially, that you can touch and feel with your hands. It's not something that you just look at on a screen anymore. You've got him in your hands, and it's that kind of thing that draws me into this particular line. Now, all that said and done, it is a real pain to actually get a hold of this guy. It annoys me that I had to get somebody else to get this figure and ship it to me from a different state to be able to find him, because I can't just go get him, or I couldn't have ordered him online, because none of that worked out for me. But overall, does it really ruin my enjoyment of this figure? No, because at the end of the day, it's awesome, and it translated into figure form really well. It's another instance where NECA really does a fantastic job when it comes to this particular line. So that's going to do it for this look at the NECA Toys cartoon Metalhead. Let me know what you guys think. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and share, and until next time.